My daughter fabricated lies about me and nearly convinced her grandfather to send her to sea when I refused to sell our family artifact for college. Hi, I'm 45F, and I need help with my 19F daughter Chloe. The matter is complicated, so let me give you some background. My husband Stan and I had Chloe at 26. Stan and I married after college. He hailed from a wealthy business family. His father raised him alone after his cancer-stricken mother died when he was young. My 65-year-old father-in-law, Mark, always treated me like his daughter and sometimes protected me in front of his family. My friendship with Stan was strained. He seldom returned home after Chloe was born. When Chloe was 3, we almost divorced, but Mark got us into marriage therapy and we succeeded. However, everything felt fake, like a produced version of ourselves. Since the divorce had a major influence on our daughter Chloe, Stan and I decided to stay together. A family that loved Chloe but not each other reared her. Stan ran the family business while I was a graphic designer to protect Chloe financially. Good kid Chloe made things work for herself. Chloe arrived. 17, Stan confessed his 5-year affair with his secretary, upsetting our arrangement. After nearly a decade with us, that woman's backstabbing seemed like family betrayal. Due to his carelessness, Mark nearly forced Stan to give up his will, making our home tragic. I decided to stop my relationship with Stan and file for divorce that day because I was too tired to keep up the act. Chloe stayed silent, but she received the brunt of it as she had to relocate every weekend and lived in a side apartment with her dad. After all, his home was nearer school. I helped her transition as much as possible. From avoiding fights with Stan to offering her the best. By high school senior year, Chloe had decided mine to follow in her father and grandfather's footsteps, and Mark told me he would build a new corporation in Chloe's name and give it to her after college. After working hard in school, she got into a good business school. As a parent, I offered to pay half the tuition and Stan the other half. She was denied scholarships and financial aid. Stan's sidekick knew she was pregnant. I started saving and combining savings to get 50%. Event during her senior year caused us to grow apart. As mentioned, I considered being there for Chloe after my and Stan's divorce. Excellent pianist Chloe played for seniors. Stan and I went because it was a weekday. I called Stan on recital day to ask if he was there because I was stuck at work. Since I was there, he thought it was okay that he and his girlfriend were in the hospital because the doctor's visit took longer than expected. The thought frightened me, so I asked Mark if he could attend the recital, but he declined too. Stan and I ran away and arrived at the show's end. Chloe had one, but her family was absent. Thus we found her walking home alone. She entered the car discreetly after seeing us, and when we asked her about it, she became angry, which was reasonable. She stated he may be late since he was taking care of his kid's mother, but I placed work before my child when I dropped her and Stan off at his apartment. This upset me, but I knew it was coming from a place of hurt, so I stayed quiet. After agreeing to make up, I took her to her favorite restaurant for lunch that weekend, but our relationship changed. After her examinations, Chloe came to my place for a long vacation because my husband's mistress was pregnant and needed more room. Some afternoon over lunch, Chloe inquired whether I was going to finance her college tuition so she can give me a detailed estimate. I told her I would pay half the tuition as her father would also contribute. She stated it was obvious he wouldn't make such a hefty payment with a new child. Feeling concerned, I told Chloe that I didn't have that much money and that Stan shouldn't have thrown away his first baby since he was having another. She practically begged me to help her pay, stating she would need a student loan if I didn't. She also stated she didn't blame her dad or his girlfriend for not paying. She was furious and fled when I suggested the loan because we didn't have enough money. She probably expected me to pay for everything instead of borrowing. She and I didn't talk the rest of the day since I wanted to give her space. The next morning, Chloe was gone. I called her, and she said she was with a friend and would return soon. She returned about lunchtime and greeted me enthusiastically. She placed this jewelry on my table after I asked why she was delighted. She placed my late mother's blue sapphire jewelry there. When I was a youngster, we weren't rich or comfortable, so this expensive jewelry from my great-great-grandmother was lucky. I asked Chloe where she discovered the jewelry, and she said in my attic, other mom items. After having a friend appraise the jewelry, she realized its value. I could now pay for her education by selling this jewelry, she said. Her reply astonished me because this was a family tradition for centuries. I was surprised that my daughter, who would inherit this, wanted me to sell it when it wasn't needed. I could tell Chloe was pleased, but I calmed her by telling her this family treasure was too emotional to sell. She argued that since she was family, it wouldn't help if it couldn't help her, but I gently denied and requested us to stop talking about it. When I checked on her, she was in her room because she packed her belongings to visit her dad, upset. When I tried to convince her it wasn't a huge deal and we could figure something out, she said no and left. As Chloe's graduation approached, I expected an invitation to her school, but instead I was invited to Stan's house for the after party. I emailed Chloe, assuming there was a mistake, and she said the school only allowed one parent, so I grudgingly authorized her. Abduct her father. I was outraged when Chloe shared images of her graduation ceremony with Stan and his mistress on Instagram later that day. I decided not to let the day affect me and just get by. It appeared like nothing transpired during the graduation party. I ignored Mark's offer to console me for missing Chloe's graduation by blaming my illness. Chloe stood up front and thanked everyone throughout the speech. She kept saying her soon-to-be stepmother was her lucky charm and source of wealth. I expected she would mention me since she kept talking about Stan and his new family. However, the speech ended without addressing me. Mark saw my sadness in my face as this crushed my heart. He went to Chloe to talk after what looked to be a heated argument and left a few minutes later. Chloe asked for a private talk, so we went to her room. When her grandfather Mark asked her to give me credit for her achievement, she screamed and accused me of destroying her wonderful day. He rushed out and said he knew everything when she warned him not to meddle. She said that I was a rat for introducing her to Mark and ruining her friendship. She ignored me when I told her I hadn't told him about our chat and instructed me to go immediately. I gathered myself and left sad. Later that night, Chloe contacted me crying and begged to come to Stan's house immediately. I drove directly to his house out of nervousness. Mark and Stan, his sidekick, were sitting on the couch with Chloe crying as I entered. Stan phoned Mark the day after Chloe went to his apartment after our dispute, demanding either money for her college tuition or his help convincing me to pay the full sum. Mark was furious with Stan for using me to avoid paying for his daughter and stopped talking. Chloe and Mark hadn't spoken since that day. After Chloe declined my name and gave a ridiculous justification, Mark lost his calm and told her something she didn't want to hear. He did, however, ask me to be honest about what happened with Chloe. I told him everything. He understood my disdain at selling unnecessary family heritage. He then stepped up and chastised Chloe for treating me this way before revealing the business he had set up for her graduation present. After informing Chloe, he tore it up in front of everyone, admitting he was wrong to think Chloe was a great child and that he would stop indulging her. This shocked everyone, and Chloe cried excessively, pleading with Mark to change his behavior. After being such an entitled brat, Mark went to me and asked me not to give Chloe my college savings. He left without speaking. Stan and his buddy blamed me for initiating this mess, but Chloe begged me to convince Mark to give her the future firm. I promised Chloe I'd think about it, but I couldn't stand it and went home. Stan and Chloe bombarded me with texts the next morning urging me to talk to Mark and fix things. Even though I don't think it was my fault, I'm stressed and considering inviting Mark to dinner tonight to discuss it. Is it wrong that I didn't sell my family heirloom to pay for education for my daughter? Update 1. Hi, I'm responding to some questions concerning the first article. Why was Mark first unable? Help fund Chloe's education? Despite his riches, Mark believes people should work for their positions, thus he didn't want to pay for Chloe's education. After graduation, he was thrilled to hire her in the firm. As said, Stan was comfortable but not as affluent as his father. He was saving for his newborn and family. Stan's girlfriend, Chloe's prospective stepmother, has wronged me, but Chloe has always found her sweet and kind. I don't like her. After Stan and I divorced, Chloe didn't like her, but they had gotten closer through our shared experience of dysfunctional parents and adult step-parent-child interactions. I just now discovered their breadth relationship. To be honest, Mark and I discussed what occurred over dinner and agreed that it wasn't fair for him to deny Chloe company and me to refuse to pay for her. The way Chloe celebrated showed Mark's message that she wouldn't have treasured anything. She acted like she earned everything and didn't want to accomplish on her own, which saddened him. He taught me that I shouldn't expect anything in return for giving her the money I saved. You shouldn't be unhappy if Chloe leaves me for her new family. Now, after Mark left, saying it wasn't my fault. After he left, I told Chloe that her grandfather wouldn't hire her until she succeeded. When she understood this, she panicked and cursed me for everything that went wrong. Stan had to remove her phone because things got out of hand. Due to this phone's behavior, I'm questioning covering half of her college costs. Mark informed me the next day that he and Stan were fighting again. Stan accused Mark and me of mistreating Chloe and making her miserable. Mark, being bold, informed Stan that he was abandoning his daughter. He could also afford her. Mark cautioned him that his silly finger-pointing might cost him his job at the firm he ran. Stan stopped discussing and defending Chloe after that. His mistress tried to persuade Mark by showing how to treat family. She declined Mark's proposal to pay for Chloe because she wasn't as affluent. I tried to contact Chloe after our last talk. It seems acceptable that I no longer pay for her college since I have been banned from phoning and using social media. Education. Update 2. Nothing has happened since the last update a week ago. Even though I know giving in to my daughter will promote her conduct, I still refuse to assist her financially. Still, I regret not helping my kid with academics. This update covers what happened next. As previously stated, Chloe was distraught since she realized she would have school debt and likely wouldn't join the family business. I hate that girl, but I'm glad Chloe has Stan's girlfriend as a mental pillar. Mark thought life was over after a few days, too short to resent after losing his stepdaughter financially. He would not provide her money or any help, but wanted to talk to her about what went wrong and how we might fix things. They had lunch after Chloe agreed to see him, but it didn't go well. Everything was okay until Mark asked Chloe why she hadn't invited me to her graduation. Chloe now had an entire story about how she had urged me to pay half her tuition and ask about the jewelry to make things easy, but I reprimanded her for being entitled to persuade her grandfather. She said she invited me to the graduation despite everything. I turned down the offer and became the victim. The smart Mark double-checked with me after hearing her out, so I know about this occurrence. When Mark asked me about turning down the offer, I cried because I thought Chloe had gone to spite me. Not only did I tell him the truth, I made it clear that I wasn't invited. Graduation intentionally by presenting him the discussions Chloe must have forgotten before lying. Mark was displeased and told Chloe they wouldn't date until she stopped lying. I texted her using Mark's phone to tell her I didn't want to talk to such an unappreciative youngster. Stan's girlfriend texted me a few times, calling me names and damaging her family, so I blocked her since she wasn't worth my time. Update 3: I never envisioned reaching this stage and needing to update so quickly. Chloe decided after talking to Mark that making up a tale and spreading it was the only way to win people over. She made me the adversary by posting videos on TikTok claiming I was a poisonous mother and had fabricated various childhood incidents. She even made rude statements about my union with Mark. My coworker who follows my kid told me of the issue since I don't utilize these new social media platforms. I emailed Stan, Chloe, and his girlfriend, Stan, to say that all boundaries had been crossed, threatening to sue them for defamation if they didn't remove the video immediately. My workmate assured me that the post got few views, so I didn't need to worry. Mark decided to send Chloe a similar email after realizing what transpired. Later that night, a distant cousin called to ask about Chloe and accused me of neglecting to protect her. When I asked her how she found out, she said TikTok was popular in our area. I downloaded the app to see what others were saying. Chloe enjoyed the insults that were destroying my reputation. My phone and email were full of hate letters from strangers and friends. I sued her and Stan because I couldn't believe my child was so filthy. But first I shared my story online, uploading 2 of my flicks, backing my statements with proof, and they got more views than expected. Due to the hostility she was receiving online, Chloe decided to approach me to resolve the issue and remove the posts. I was furious that she expected me to obey. Next day, she should tell Stan to meet me at his father's office. Mark and I decided to sue Chloe and Stan as her guardians for slander after discussing this. I had enough and Mark's firm was suffering from all this unwanted press. Stan and Chloe visited Mark's workplace the next day. Mark notified Stan and Chloe about his defamation lawsuit with his attorney. Chloe immediately deleted her TikToks to destroy evidence after being scared by the prospect of going in court for her short flicks. After Mark showed her the video screenshots, she cried like a crocodile, pleading with him to quit damaging her future. Stan tried guilt-shaming me into returning the case, but I told him to stop since he didn't stop the tragedy. Meddling now. This is distressing, especially when it comes from your child. I'm taking a break from social media and will read the comments when I return. Since the issue is addressed, and I'm sharing this after a few months, this is likely the last update. Thanks also to everyone who gave comments. I appreciate your help. Especially with Chloe, much has changed since last time. Since everything happened before the long weekend, we filed the complaint on Monday. Mark called me on Saturday, requiring me to visit Stan immediately. I rushed, and what happened was horrific. Stan and Chloe returned home and fought after we told them the scenario. Stan's girlfriend was hospitalized for shortness of breath. After the test, she took the child home safely. Since she felt horrible about compromising her health, Chloe tried to apologize, but they fought. Give Stan's girlfriend space, Chloe was advised. However, Chloe persisted in bothering Stan's girlfriend because she wanted her apologies acknowledged. This made things worse, and she was clearly furious. Before the fight escalated, Chloe pushed Stan's girlfriend away. Rage. Chloe cried and ran to her room after realizing her mistake. Some hours later, she arrived and was surprised to see us all sitting. After realizing her mistake, she apologized to Stan's girlfriend and acknowledged her actions were wrong. Stan believed Chloe was a threat to his unborn child and pregnant girlfriend, and wanted her out of their home immediately. Chloe apologized again after being surprised, but Stan's girlfriend told her this was the only option available to her. I think it was harsh that Chloe brought this on herself after recognizing her mistake. Chloe had to accept Mark's offer to stay till things worked out. Stan cried and begged his father to drop the case we were going to file when Chloe left to pack. Rather than risk legal difficulties at such a crucial point in his life, he would rather end his connection with Chloe and give up his independence. Every person in the room had their mouths pressed to the ground. I know Chloe wasn't perfect, and wasn't even a good human at this point, but Stan was doing no one any favors by cutting off communication with one of his children for another who hadn't even been born. Mark and I looked surprised, awaiting Stan's fiancée's response. She merely said nothing was their fault and agreed with Stan. I said this was too petty for her father, even if Chloe was unpleasant. Mark ignored Stan and walked downstairs with Chloe after that. Chloe apologized on Mark's phone the next day. She said her grandfather told her everything, and that her dad would disown her. She also stated she found too late that I was her sole caring parent. Instead of forgiving her, I advised her to take care of herself. I phoned Mark that night, as Chloe was already coping with a lot. Since she needed help, we decided not to pursue the slander lawsuit against her. Chloe quickly agreed to go if she apologized for Mark and me on all social media. In that message she said she was cutting off her kid and her boyfriend. Stan tried to contact Chloe to apologize for suggesting disowning her after the case was dropped, but she put up with him. She unleashed her wrath and told him everything, from his adultery to his departure. After that, he realized the relationship was finished and said nothing else. Chloe worked alone and borrowed money for school. She stopped at my house to apologize before leaving. After forgiving her, I told her our relationship needed repair and asked for distance, which she granted. Chloe is receiving mental health therapy and working near her college campus. We want to invite her over for the holidays, despite our silence. Mark spends little time with her, even though Stan and his new family are doing well. He told his father he regretted breaking up with his daughter.